If you're a solopreneur like a consultant or freelancer, and you want to use Claude Cowork to streamline your operations, this video is going to give you 5 set it and forget it use cases that are going to save you hours. So I've seen a bunch of those insane Claude use cases videos. Not too many of them are things that are actually helpful for solos like us. So this video is a few totally sane ways to use Claude Cowork that will actually change the way you work. So let's dive into number 1, a morning briefing. I'm going to have Claude check my calendar, triage my email, and pull out the top 5 Notion tasks that I have due today or this week, and it's going to help me prepare for my day. So to do this, we need 2 Claude Cowork features, connectors and the scheduler. So step 1 is always planning, and this is where we're going to figure out everywhere that we want Claude to look for information that relates to our day. So let's keep it really easy for now and say we want to connect the email, the calendar, and the to-do list. Now, I keep my to-do list in Notion, but Claude has connectors for Trello and Asana, all the popular lists, okay? And this is completely customizable. If you use Slack with your clients and you want that included, great. If you just want email in your calendar, great. So let's just set this up together because Claude is just going to walk us right through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into Claude Cowork and we're going to hit scheduled and go over here and hit new task. And we're going to say create with Claude. And Claude is actually going to give us some directions and walk us right through it. So this is just Claude explaining how scheduled items run. And here's a list of things that it'll actually walk you through. And you can see morning and weekly briefing is right there on the list. So let's say I want it to work on weekdays and I want to be notified with a push and an email notification. Now I'm going to say I want this to run at 4:30 a.m. because I don't want it to be during peak Claude times because then it costs more. And for this one, let's just say we want it to do email and our calendar. And let's go. So it's basically created the prompt and all the instructions right here. And all I have to do is say schedule. Now, generally what we want to do is we want to go ahead and run this first thing before it actually runs just to get all of the permissions out of the way. So it actually wants to update my existing morning briefing, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that because mine is already all customized. But you can see how easy that is to do. If you do this, just a couple things you're going to remember. You don't need a frontier model for this. I just use Opus 4.6. After you get it written the way you want it the first time, hit run now so you can set the permissions so it doesn't stall on its first run, okay? And once you kind of get the basics set up, you can keep customizing it any way you want, right? Maybe if you have an appointment on your calendar and you want Claude to go pull meeting notes from a previous meeting, you can have it do that. If it's a new meeting, maybe somebody you're pitching, you could have it do research on that person and that person's company and have it add that. It is really easy to keep building on this and making it really valuable for the way you work. Okay, so now let's move on to our next use case, repurposing any piece of content. So you want to get more marketing bang for everything you write. So we're going to use the exact same features, connectors, and the scheduler. But this one is a little more customized, so we're going to spend a little bit more time on the planning part. And if you get stuck, you can always ask Claude to help you create the plan. But here's the steps we're going to use to build our content repurposer. Step 1 is to think through all the apps you're going to need to make a workflow like this work. So you'll need the original content to live in one place. Yours could live in a dedicated folder on your Google Drive or on your computer. So if you have a newsletter, for instance, all you have to do is put the text from your newsletter, put it in a Google Doc, and stick that in a folder either on Google Drive or on your hard drive. And that's it. That is what can kick off this entire process. So step 2 is to think about the tasks and the handoffs involved, right? So in my case, what I do is I take my YouTube transcript, I drop it into the folder. And so I basically tell it to take that transcript and then rewrite it and reformat it. And then I have it log into my WordPress account, create a new blog post, drop the text in with the headlines, and then save and publish that as a draft blog post because I obviously don't want it scheduling it if I haven't seen it first. Don't do that, okay? And so step 3 is simply the schedule. When do you want this to happen and how often? So once you have a plan, all that's left to do is hook it up. So this time we're just going to start in a regular Cowork session. I went ahead and created what I wanted to in another document, so I'm just pasting it in here. You're just going to tell it what you want it to do. I want to create a new scheduled task. It's a content repurposer that uses my YouTube transcripts to draft a blog post, formats the blog post with H1 and H2 headlines, drops it in WordPress, and then saves it as a draft for my review. And I've just put down here, the workflow that I want is Google Drive to WordPress. And by the way, you do not have to use a frontier model for this. I'm going to go down here and just pick Opus 4.6. Okay. So the first thing it does is it asks me how often I want to run this. And I'm just going to say weekly. And then where are they saved? And I'm going to say a specific folder. And how should we connect to WordPress? I already have a WordPress connector set up. So I'm going to say already connected, but if you have one that you haven't set up yet, you'll just set this up and then Claude's going to go to work for you. I'm going to say I want it to run on Mondays. And I'm just going to tell it that it's called YouTube transcript. And here I'm just going to reconnect my Google Drive. And so now Claude has created a custom prompt for us. It's outlined the workflow. Here's the part where it goes to get the folder from Google Drive. And here's how it tells it how it's going to make the blog post with the H1 and the H2 sections. It even includes my brand voice information. And then it goes down here and shows use the WordPress connector to create the new post. And so all we need to do now is go down here and hit schedule. So now that you have a better understanding of those two foundational Claude capabilities, connectors and scheduling, what you can build is really just up to your imagination and how you work and what you would like to offload. Here are a few ideas you could try. All right, first, you could repurpose more content, right? You don't have to stop at just turning your newsletter or that transcript into a blog post. You could have Claude turn it into 3 LinkedIn posts and a reel script and tweets or threads. So that content would just be waiting for you every week, ready for you to add an image and put it into your scheduler. Another thing you could create is an always up-to-date status report. So this is something that really makes me crazy is I have multiple clients and I'm always kind of digging back through to find out, okay, where did we leave off and what is the next thing that needs to happen with this client? So what you could do is you could connect Slack or your note taker and your email, maybe a Google folder that's a client folder, and you could create an always up-to-date artifact about the last thing you talked about and what you're working on for each client. So you'd always have a snapshot of exactly where you are in that client's file. Another thing you could do is automated follow-ups, right? You could have Claude go through your transcripts from your meetings every day and have it draft follow-up emails that are waiting for you in your draft folder every morning so you can come in, edit them, make sure they say what you want to say, and then just send them out. So if you string enough of these connector schedule combos together, you can actually hand off enough stuff to Claude to get it acting kind of like your virtual assistant. So on Fridays, you could have it review your client folders and create next week's prep notes so you're not scrambling on Sunday afternoon. Every Monday, you could have it create a content folder based on last week's newsletter. On Wednesdays, maybe have it read and consolidate all those industry newsletters that you get and create a highlight reel for you with links. And then every month, have it review your client folders and create a customized report of all the value you've delivered that month and keep you top of mind, right? So everything we've talked about today involves using Claude connectors. And if you want to walk through how to set those up, this is the video you want to watch next.